Hello everyone, my name is Caylene and welcome to my channel. We're going to be crocheting this little candy basket with handles. It's much easier than it seems, and you can finish this in a few minutes. You can use any worsted weight yarn for this project. What I'm using here is 3mm single strand macrame cotton cord, and I'll be working with two hook sizes, which is a 4mm hook and a 3.75mm hook. You'll need 5 stitch markers, and I like to color code my work so I have 4 of the same color. And you're also going to need a pair of scissors, a yarn needle, and something to measure with. So once you have all the materials, let's get started. With the 4mm hook, begin this project with a magic circle. Once you've made the magic circle, you should already have one chain. Now work 8 single crochets into this magic circle. Once you've made 8 single crochets, pull this yarn tail to close up the circle. Now we're done with round 1. We're going to be working in continuous rounds, so instead of joining each round with a slip stitch, we're going to carry on to the second round by working the next single crochet into the top of the first single crochet of the previous round. So go ahead and make your single crochet, just like that. Now mark the top of this first stitch with your stitch marker. In this round, we're going to do an increase in every stitch, which means working 2 single crochets into the same stitch. So go ahead and make 1 more single crochet into the same stitch. So now you have 2 single crochets in this stitch. Now work an increase in every stitch. So 2 single crochets in every stitch all the way around. So continue doing this all the way around until you reach your stitch marker. You should have 16 single crochets by the time you reach the stitch marker. In the third round, we're going to increase in every other stitch. And I'm going to begin the third round with an increase, which means 2 single crochets into the first stitch. Now mark the top of that first stitch with your stitch marker. Now work a regular single crochet into the next stitch, followed by an increase into the next stitch. And then a regular single crochet into the next stitch. Now repeat this all the way around. You should finish round 3 with a regular single crochet, and you should have a total of 24 stitches. In the fourth round, we're going to have 2 regular single crochets in between each increase. And I'm going to start this round with 1 single crochet into the first 2 stitches. Mark the top of that first stitch with your stitch marker. Then work an increase into your next stitch. Followed by 1 regular single crochet into the next 2 stitches. and then an increase into the next stitch. Now continue with this pattern all the way around. By the end of round 4, you should have 32 stitches. The last one should be an increase. To begin round 5, make 1 single crochet into the first stitch. Then mark the top of that first stitch. Now make an increase into the next stitch. Now make 1 single crochet into the next 3 stitches. Followed by an increase. So you should have 3 regular single crochets in between each increase. Continue doing this all the way around. I'm at the end of round 5, and the last 2 stitches should be regular single crochets, and you should have a total of 40 stitches. To finish off this round, this time, you will join with a slip stitch into the top of the first single crochet. And so far, the base of my basket is about 7.5 centimeters across, and it'll get a bit larger once we finish the next round. We're about to transition to the body of the basket in the next round. So before we do that, I'm going to get rid of this yarn tail from the magic circle. Now we are ready to begin the next round. Let's begin round 6. As I said before, we're going to transition to the body of the basket in this round. Before we move on, I'm going to put my stitch marker back into the top of the single crochet where I made the slip stitch. We'll need to locate this stitch later. Now to begin this round, chain 1, then turn your work so that you're looking at the wrong side of your work. This is going to be the inside of your basket. Now make a single crochet into the top of the first stitch, which is actually the last stitch of the previous round. Then you're going to continue making 1 single crochet into the top of all 40 stitches. When you get to the end of the round, your 40th single crochet should go into the stitch where the stitch marker is. Then to finish off this round, make a slip stitch into the top of the first single crochet. And use your stitch marker to mark that same stitch. At this point, you should be able to fold this row of single crochets upward. And if you take a look at the outside of your basket, you'll see a nice ridge formed by the back of this row of single crochets. Now we'll begin the body of the basket. To begin round 7, chain 1, then turn your work so that you're looking at the outside of your basket. Then make a single crochet into the first stitch. And continue making 1 single crochet into every single stitch all the way around. I'm at the end of round 7, and there's 1 stitch remaining where the stitch marker is. So make your last single crochet and join with a slip stitch into the top of the first single crochet. And this finishes off round 7. Starting from round 8, I'm going to switch to my 3.75mm hook, and I'm going to be using this hook all the way to the end of the project. So to begin round 8, start with chain 1. Then make a single crochet into the same stitch. Mark the top of that first stitch with your stitch marker. Then into the next stitch, make a double crochet. Then into the next stitch, again make a single crochet. Followed by a double crochet into the next stitch. I think you're beginning to see the pattern, so continue with this pattern of alternating your single crochet and double crochet stitches until you get to the end of the round. I've come to the end of round 8, and your last stitch should be a double crochet, and you're going to finish this round by joining with a slip stitch into the top of the first single crochet. Leave this stitch marker where it is. We're done with round 8, and you should still have a total of 40 stitches. To begin round 9, chain 1, then turn your work so that you're looking at the inside of your basket. Now make a single crochet into the first stitch, followed by a double crochet into the next stitch. Then again a single crochet into the next stitch, and then a double crochet, so you're going to continue alternating between your single and double crochets all the way around, and your last stitch of this round should be a double crochet into this last stitch where the stitch marker is. Then join the same way as before, chain 1, then don't forget to turn your work back to the outside of your basket for the next round. And you're going to repeat exactly what you did in this round for round 10. So go ahead and pause the video, and I'll meet you back at the end of round 10. I'm back at the end of round 10, and the last stitch should be a double crochet, and I've already joined into the top of the first single crochet. There should still be a total of 40 stitches, and you should now have 3 rows of what is actually the lemon peel stitch. We're going to begin making the handles in the next rounds, so I've marked where to put the handles. I'm going to put one of my handles near the seam, and I've placed this stitch marker on the 38th stitch of round 10. There's going to be 5 onward stitches inside the gap, so I've skipped those 5 stitches and placed another stitch marker into the next stitch. Now skip 13 stitches and place another stitch marker into the next stitch. This is where the second handle starts. Then again, skip 5 stitches and put one more stitch marker into the next stitch. This means that you will have 13 stitches in between your 2 handles on both sides. So once you've marked your stitches, we'll begin round 11. I've put a stitch marker into the same stitch where I made the join at the end of round 10. This will help me locate the last stitch to work into in round 11. So to begin round 11, chain 1. Then turn to the inside of your basket. Now make a single crochet into the first stitch. Then a double crochet into the next stitch. And we've come to the stitch marker where the first handle starts. Whenever you get to a stitch marker, remove it and make a single crochet. Now chain 5. skip these 5 stitches and make another single crochet where the next stitch marker is. And there's your first handle. It's still half finished, but it'll look much better once we finish the next round. You made a single crochet here, so the next stitch gets a double crochet. Now continue alternating between your single and double crochet stitches just like before until you get to the next stitch marker. Then you're going to repeat exactly what you did here for the next handle. Then carry on with alternating between your single and double crochets all the way to the end of the round. I'm at the end of round 11 and your last stitch should be a double crochet where the stitch marker is. So I'm going to put in my last double crochet, then slip stitch into the top of the first single crochet. And we're done with round 11. And this is how my work looks now. To begin round 12, chain 1. Turn to the outside of your basket. Now make 1 single crochet into the first stitch. And I'm going to mark the top of this first stitch with my stitch marker. Next, make 1 single crochet into the next 11 stitches. When you get to the chain 5 space, work 8 single crochets all into the same space. Now continue making 1 single crochet into the next 15 stitches. When you get to the other chain 5 space, repeat what you did here. And I'll meet you back again at the end of the round. I'm back at the end of round 12 and we're almost done with this basket. You should have 1 single crochet in every stitch and 8 single crochets in each chain 5 space, and that's a total of 46 stitches all the way around. After you've made a single crochet into the last 3 stitches, following the second chain 5 space, make a slip stitch into the top of the first single crochet. That's where the stitch marker is. We're done with round 12 and we're ready to begin the final round. The final round is very simple. Before moving on, use your stitch marker to mark the slip stitch that you made when you joined at the end of round 12. Now all you have to do is make a slip stitch into all 46 stitches. So go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you back at the end of the round where we'll finish off this project together. I've just made my last slip stitch. We're not going to do anything with this first slip stitch where the stitch marker is. To finish off this project, cut and weave in the end of your yarn. Thank you for following along, and if you enjoyed this tutorial or found this helpful in any way, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you have friends or family who might like this tutorial, please share this video, and I'm always happy to hear from you, so please leave me a comment if you made this basket. So thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you again in my next video.